Singer spectacular. We had a reputation the year before that the sound wasn't that great. So Cleve brought back the Rob McGay helped us out, and I remember standing, or actually not standing, I had a fever and I wasn't feeling all that well, but mixing the band and the music. And at one point, Cleve's sitting right behind me, and he slams his hands on my shoulders and goes, "You hear that?" I'm going, "Oh my gosh, what have I screwed up now?" He goes, "You hear that vocal density? That's wonderful!" I went, "Whoo!" So I knew from then on I was going to do okay. This was a recording session that we did in Indianapolis. I believe Steve was on this one. And it's a long relationship. Cleve came in 1970, 71, 70. I joined up with him in 1990 as a student, and it's been such a tremendous journey along the way. I want to talk to you a little bit about how we went from Bethel to here. This is a picture of the control room on Bethel. Oh, not that one. That is too, but we're going to go back. Technology. Let's see if you're caught up with me. I have a lot of screen. There we go. Hopefully it stays there. That's the control room in the Bethel studio. This student's name is Doug. And you notice the analog console, the 8X, there behind the WSR. There's an 8-track tape machine, 2-track tape machine. There's Cleve. That's my hand in that picture. I'm such a famous hand model. It's one of the many side jobs that I learned how to do. This was Studio C, and Studio C was a tape editing suite. Marie Ebbing is here on the Surge synthesizer. The funny story is that this is very early in Marie Ebbing's career, and she had no idea what she was doing in this picture. But Marie went on to, work in some really big pictures like Lord of the Rings and King Kong, and I think now she's working with House of Cards. Next slide, Rob Marshall on the art synthesizer. This was Studio B upstairs, kind of a hybrid analog-digital studio. Rob was everything about analog. He was at Ball State. Analog tape, analog synthesis. He got out of college and he went to get a job, and he had to sell Pro Tools gear. And he fell in love with digital technology. And now he's co-founded a company that connects Pro Tools systems across the globe. It's truly remarkable. Cleve inspired a generation of super cool kids. It's really quite amazing. There was our aerial shot. I took this off Google Earth before Google Earth took our building off of, let me see if I can notate that. There's the building right there, in the middle. Hard to see. And the Wi-Fi's down. Let's look up there. This was the first drawing of this was before we knew anything about the site plan, about anything. We had gone on a trip to California. That was Jane and Cleve, I believe the engineer for CSO, Tim Butler, went with us. And we visited a couple of spots that really influenced us in the design of the facility. One was, we went to the plant studios and visited their mastering facility and their round control room. We had no idea how acoustically that worked, but we figured it out once we got there. We saw Expression Center for New Media and their use of space, control rooms around the central space that inspired an idea. We went you visited Larry Holt, I think in LA, and heard the balanced power system. I visited with Rob Mills and Daryl Frame in San Francisco and learned about interconnection of post-production facilities. So it was quite a journey. You notice Cleve's drawing, I flipped it over, drew this, because I thought we needed hallways, simply. So this drawing is based off Cleve's original sketch with hallways. And then eventually, we put it in Illustrator, and this is what we presented to the architects. And I forgot to mention, there's a building down on the bottom, it says critical listening. On the original plan, it was called
On the original plan, it was called a lounge. I thought students needed a place to hang out. I think I lost batteries. But I got super nervous that the architects would not build us a lounge, so I called it critical listening, right? And we ended up, no joke aside, actually building kind of a mastering level facility for that. So then the architects started sending us stuff. So on the left you see what the architects sent us, and on the right is what we dreamed up kind of to counter that. You know, they don't understand how sound travels. I mean, Cleve talks a lot about architects being kind of a composition. You know, you have to dream about how the music is going to go around the room, how you're going to react with the room and be musical. So we started sending drawings back to them. That eventually went to, oh man, they kept moving stairways, they kept moving mechanical shafts, and every single time we would go, shape it this way, shape it this way. We get to one point that I remember this distinctly. Cleve and I went down to Indianapolis and met with Sam Miller, and he was very gentle in how he presented the idea that we have to somehow hold the roof up. And to do that, you have to put columns. And how do we put columns in a facility this complex and not have a column in the middle of the room? So he said all of that, and he goes, "Are you hungry? What do you want for lunch?" I had a chicken salad sandwich. It was delicious. But we sat there for the next several hours and dreamed up how we could hide all the columns within the facility. So that was that iteration. And then we got to the point where we're getting close to where we are today. This one on the left has a kind of a control room and a big area around it that was kind of a machine area. And on the right, you have a kind of centralized main control room with a smaller machine room. We had kind of we kept bouncing these ideas off each other. And on the bottom, you see a lot of studios surrounding another central space. So we were getting super close. And finally, this is what we arrived at and what we have today. You see that we're all contained in a secure area. We have our central big studio. We have control rooms surrounding a centralized space. So we really tried to maximize space. It's a big facility, but we made it even bigger because we figured out how to be more efficient with it. And of course, this is the crowning achievement, Studio One, with then the first icon that was sold in the world. And Studio B is now has a Rupert Neve 5088. So we've kind of we've gone through digital, we've gone to analog, we're beginning virtual systems. It's been quite an amazing journey, and I'd like to, Cleve has been, you're the guy, you're the guy.
What have you done to yourself?
Well, that's not fair. I guess that's probably about what I looked like when I first came here. I think that was 25 years ago this year, more or less. I came here in '92, 25 years ago. And I had come here without knowing too much. I switched careers. I used to be an engineer, and I became a music person. And when I first met Cleve, I was just in my second year of music studies at an undergraduate institution at Bowling Green State University. So I came here, and I didn't have a whole lot of experience, but a lot of enthusiasm. And Cleve helped me out a lot. He helped me to have an assistantship so that I could work here. I was his graduate assistant while I was here. And I think some of the more important things that he did for me as a teacher was helping me with exposure to a lot of ideas, a lot of information about people, about places, things happening all around the world, history of composition, history of technology, and new possibilities with that technology. And just basically made me aware of a whole world of creativity and ways of using technology in music. he was running our new music festival every year at that time, and brought in some really good guests, some big names like Pauline Oliveros came in while I was here. Morton Subotnick came in. I was on stage running Morton Subotnick's computer when they were performing his pieces here, and that was a great experience. I was thinking about just the history and the memories, and I realized, Cleve, you mentioned, what did you say today? Music is space? Yeah, and I think that's an idea that I picked up and really ran with, probably as a theme throughout my career. I remember I did my first quadraphonic piece on analog tape. I think that was probably the first year I was here. When I did my master's thesis, you helped me come up with an idea about space. The idea was that there was a robot, and you have to come up with an algorithm for getting that robot through the space around obstacles to a goal. And so I worked on this and programmed the computer to do that, and the space was mapped to musical parameters. So every dimension maps to a different musical parameter, and as the robot moves through space, there's an algorithmic composition that's traveling through that musical space. And that idea of space, continued. Cleve helped me get into a doctoral program, a good one, at the University of Illinois. And I was first learning about sound diffusion, moving sound through space, and I eventually went to England to study at the University of Birmingham at their Birmingham Electroacoustic Sound Theater, also called the BEAST. That's their system. And I did a whole lot of sound diffusion there. Sound diffusion is when you sit at the mixer here, move the faders around, and move the sound through the space, and you'll notice we have several speakers set up here, including some speakers back in the corners and up on the balcony here. And this is just a little taste of what we were doing in England when I was there. And I think this idea of space really continues in my music now. I was just demonstrating today a computer interface where you move your hands above sensors, and you move to the left, to the right, and up and down, and you control different parameters of music as you do that. And I've done work with sound installations where you move through space and the sound changes as you move through a physical space. And so that's just a thread that I noticed really carried through my career. So yeah, Cleve, as I mentioned, helped me get into a good doctoral school, and he was very supportive when I finished my schooling, because I came back here as a faculty member in the fall of 2000, and Cleve was very supportive at that time. He was still working here for a year before he left, and in short, Cleve really helped me broaden my horizons at a critical time in my education, and gave me a lot of support throughout my education and my career. And I'm not really good at keeping in touch with people and thanking people necessarily, but I think I owe quite a lot to Cleve, as do many of his students. So thank you very much, Cleve, and I'm glad you're back here to enjoy this. Thank you.